Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of Robinhood markets, ticker symbol HOOD or Hood. And so as you can see on the chart, I've drawn a number of lines that I think will serve as important levels of support and or resistance. And so I'm just going to go over those lines with you guys and then also taking a step back to see where those lines originate from. So I'll be doing that in a minute here. All right. And so the first thing you might notice is these white dashed lines to the upside. Those represent levels that need to be hit in order to fill these gaps that have been formed. Some of the gaps are pretty small in just a few cents, while others are a little bit larger, a little more notable. But yeah, so those are some potential upside targets. However, I do think that there's pretty significant resistance between the current price of $8.10, which was the close on Friday, November 17th, and those levels of resistance being $9, as well as this red trend line that I have drawn here. And then with the current price being at $8.10, just above this blue line, which I have drawn at $7.90, and then just below that, $7.71 drawn in purple. And so looking at the current price action over the past couple weeks, it looks like a double bottom was formed. So with that, there could be some bullish moves in the coming weeks. However, I do feel that there's more downside potential from these levels than upside, and so I'll get into that in a minute. And one thing to notice is that just recently, $7.90 was not hit, but on November 16th, so Thursday, a lower low was formed in this double bottom pattern, which could potentially be viewed as bearish. However, if you notice with the RSI down here, while the price made a lower low, the RSI made a higher low, and so that would be bullish divergence, suggesting that there could be some upside in the near future. And so my thoughts on that upside are that the price action will go up to around $9, this yellow line, likely touching this red trend line level of resistance, but I suspect it will be rejected, and then these blue and purple lines will be retested again and broken. And so I'm just going to zoom out so we can go over where these lines originate from. I think they're pretty interesting, and I find this red line, this red trend line to be very compelling, a very compelling level of resistance. Okay, and so to start, I'm just going to start from the top with these colored lines. So the yellow one originates from a low on April 29th, $9. So I believe that's the first time the stock price hit that level of $9. And if we zoom in on it, it looks like it did bounce from that level, opened right just above it, but then bounced pretty notably before closing higher. And then these blue and purple lines originate from this one day, May 12th, this one candle, with the blue line being the open of that day and the purple being the low of that day. And so I just view that that's kind of a pretty nice level that has served as support and resistance over time. With the current price being right around that level, I think it's a pretty important one to consider. Also, I have this other dashed white line, which represents a gap to the downside. And in order to fill that gap, price would need to drop to $7.22. So I do feel like that is the potential downside from the current price of $8.10. So something to be aware of. And then this red trend line, I have that originating from the low on June 15th. And I should note this is all back in 2022 in this time frame. So the low on June 15th, 2022 was $6.87. And we can see that the following day, the tail of the candle pierced below that level, but closed above. The following day after that, which would be June 17th, opened below that trend line, however, closed above. So there have there has yet to be a close below this trend line. And so this is the one touch point here where a pivot point where that line originates from on June 15th. Zooming out a little bit, moving forward, there's this other touch point, the other pivot point for that line, which is based on the open on December 28th, 2022. And on that day, you can actually see that both the blue and purple lines were pierced with a close below, just barely below that purple line with a close of $7.70. But, that red trend line, I view that as being a significant level of support originating from this point and the one I just showed you back in, I believe it was May 2022. And then so if we zoom out so we can get this whole thing in the picture here, whole thing in the frame, let's see. So as you can see, this red line, I might actually make it a little bit thicker so you can see it better. Look at how that has served as what I view as very significant support with this big bounce following this touch, another touch over here, big bounce, another near touch over here, big bounce, and then serving as support between October 20th and November 1st before getting this bounce and then a gap down below that level of support. That trend line is now resistance. And from the bigger picture, it looks like it's significant resistance. So what I see happening in the near future is a bounce up to around $9 before rejection, breaking below $7.90, $7.71, going down to fill this gap at $7.22. And, with that, it's possible a new low could be formed, breaking below $6.81. So I do feel that there's more bearish moves in the future before these gaps to the upside would be filled. So those are my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video and share your thoughts with me in the comments down below. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.